All right, I touched the mics.
Ready?
So I did want to, we are going to live stream it like we've been doing for the last few sessions. And so even if you're back there, these mics are pretty sensitive. So yeah, just be aware. And so, all right, so I guess, I'll officially start us off. So this is the first session of the PEA, Polk County Public Schools bargaining for the 22-23 school year, and our open contract for July 1st of 2022 through June 30th of 2025. And all right. I think most of our team is the same as last session. We had 2 people come off. But I'm Stephanie Yoakum. I am the president of the Polk Education Association.
Wilfredo Talado, Service Unit Director.
Marianne Capizzello.
Susan Cameron, Vice President, PEA Teacher.
Kat Nickel, English teacher and PEA PD Committee Chair.
Lorinda Utter, PEA Secretary Treasurer, Teacher of the Gifted.
Teacher Ross, PEA representative, and physical therapist for the district.
Althea Higgins, PEA Inventory Auditor District.
Kim McDermott, PEA Network Manager, Karen Hempfield Academy.
Lisa Robinson, PEA Work Specialist.
Gina Kobaba, PEA Interpreter.
Brandon Lane, PEA Testing Coordinator at Lake Alfred Polytech.
Christina Thor, PEA teacher at Lake Alfred Polytech and Public Relations Chair on the board.
Elizabeth Rasmussen, PEA High School Teacher at Ivy Barton.
Sandy Doyle, elementary PE teacher, PEA.
Kevin Moran, Tech Solutions. Service Unit Director, PEA.
Brian Warren, Human Resource Services Associate Superintendent.
Jason Pitts, Chief of Staff.
Heather Jenkins, Associate Superintendent, Chief Financial Officer.
Tony Kirk, HR.
Demi Cisneros, Senior Technician, Labor Relations.
JD Fout, Director of Finance.
And Barry Marvin, Director of Labor and Employee Relations.
All right. And Mr. Hyde will be joining us shortly. All right. So PEA had sent over just a few things to start talking about this for today's session. We do have 4 more on the books. If you guys, I think most of you guys have gotten calendar invites, and I believe most of my folks have gotten those dates too. But our next session will be March 29th, and we have March 31st, May 2nd, and May 5th on the calendars right now, all from 3 to 7 at PEA. And so today we had, yesterday we had sent over some language that we wanted to bring forth to start having a conversation around. That wasn't everything. It's just kind of giving us just a start today to start having some conversation. We do have the ability to put things on the projector if we wanted to workshop stuff in real time once we get to that point. And so I think what we wanted to start with was Teacher Article 17 with the transfer language. So the first proposed changes that we're bringing forward starts in 17.4 with the request to transfer. And so in October of 17, we had some language that was imposed on us with transfers that really locked them down to where people could not transfer in the middle of the school year unless it was a hardship transfer. And so what we wanted to bring forth, what PEA is proposing to the district, is loosening that up a little bit, not making it a free-for-all, because we understand your position where we can't have classrooms being empty and a lot of teachers floating in the middle of a semester unless it is a true hardship. But we wanted to propose opening it up to where teachers could transfer at the semester. It's very creative. It's internet with a capital I.
Very secure here.
Very secure.
As well
Now it's on.
Just gave it.
Now it's on YouTube.
So. Asked him to change that.
And so we have heard from our bargaining unit members since the language was imposed that they felt that it was very restrictive, that if they needed to move in the middle of semester or had a desire to move, whether it was a lateral opening, maybe they wanted to move into another school because an opportunity has come up, but it wasn't considered a promotion, that they wanted some flexibility to be able to do that. And so the language that we've proposed in 17.4 would allow for that to happen. And so after the first week of school, the staff portal would open up to where people could put in kind of like an intent to transfer. And that wouldn't happen in the middle of the first semester, but that would be for the second semester. So they could start putting that in. And if there were jobs that were open, they could start interviewing for them and knowing that it would start second semester. And very similarly, how we have it done right now, to where they can right now be putting in intents to transfers for the following school year, second semester would still work that same way. But it would give teachers an opportunity to transfer in the middle of the school year. Because also what we're finding is that most of our teachers now are annual contract teachers. And so if they're not happy at a school site for whatever reason, they'll just leave and they'll go to Osceola or Orange or Hillsborough or Lake or any of the surrounding counties that they live close to. So this would open up a mechanism to where instead of them just leaving because they're not happy where they're at, we could potentially put them into a vacancy where they would be happy and we don't lose them. And so that's the reasoning behind this proposed language for 17.4. Do you want me to just kind of go through it, or do you want to stop and talk about that piece?
I want to unpack it by article, because there's a lot of stuff here
Yeah.
before we even get into the hardship.
Okay, that's fine. We can go. I'm good with that. So what are your thoughts on this?
I will be transparent.
Please.
When I read this and I was reflecting on coming this evening, I was very concerned. So I was first appreciative of the fact that, you reflected on the need and the reason why we have that, why we have frozen that down in the past, because we had a lot of, in Mary Ann's words, churn going on.
Yeah.
There was teachers coming and going all the time.
And we totally get that.
And so as I listened with an open mind, I did see where you're coming from, but I do have to raise this discussion for collaboration. I get the semester piece, but if we have teachers moving at semester, one of two things will happen. You'll have a brand new teacher in a brand new school, which is fine as we head into testing season, which is in the spring. That's just a few months around the corner. And it's great for the school receiving the teacher, but there might be a big hole, in the school that teacher is coming from. I'm very concerned about this as I've read about it coming in relative to our DA schools and our schools in need. Those are the ones we've worked hardest to try to preserve and provide that continuity for. So I know we're going to talk about probationaries later, but I'm gathering also this request for transfer is for everybody except that probationary. We're going to talk about them in a few minutes in a different proposal.
Yeah.
So that is just a knee-jerk reaction to immediately I have a real concern about the testing, how we will accommodate and address those schools.
And I see where you're coming from, Brian. I really do. But I think we're at the point where even if they're at some of our turnaround schools or more needy schools, teachers are at the point where they're just going to leave anyway. And they're just going to resign instead of us being able to maybe fill another hole and make them happier. And so I get turnaround schools are its own different monster because, they have a lot of it. Invasion's not the right word, but a lot of intrusiveness from the state that they have to deal with and accountability. There's a lot of stress at those schools. And so I think just outside of that, maybe even looking at administration with those schools, maybe how things are being done, like why are they so unhappy? Is it student discipline? Getting to the root of some of these problems so that we can keep them at the DA schools and the turnaround schools. But I think I heard Mr. Hyde say this yesterday when we were at Alta Vista, the days of having 1,000 applicants for a position are gone. And so we want to be able to keep people, even if they're maybe not happy at one school, they might be happier in another school, and then we can keep them. So instead of having 2 classrooms now without a teacher, I know it's unfortunate for that one classroom to have a vacancy, but we can at least fill another vacancy somewhere and then keep teachers here, right? Because they're leaving and then we're not getting them back.
You don't want to plug 2 holes.
Yeah, so then we have a situation where we're having to plug 2 holes.
And we are like-minded.
Yeah.
Preserving the human capital.
Yeah.
We are. But I also have to reflect and be mindful of the principals and management to the stability we're trying to create in those schools. And to your point, a great amount, maybe not all, but the yeoman's load of what we're talking about are at those schools with that high accountability.
Yeah.
PA schools.
Mm-hmm.
We reference them as the Pat Barnes schools, those schools that are under her direction and accountability from the Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're going to talk about probationary pieces in a minute, but also know we're going to talk about hardship transfers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but maybe we should come back to this because I have some misgivings about it for the reasons I've outlined. But maybe we'll have something else to talk about when we get to 17.4-1 on the hardship piece, transfer. Because I'm kind of thinking, rather than having a carte blanche, open it up as presented here in 17.4, maybe we could have a more controlled, because you did offer that you wanted it kind of controlled. You didn't want it carte blanche or hairy.
And I think you're going to get an agreement from us that it's not good for kids if it's just an open door churn like we used to have. And that isn't good for kids. So we wanted a mechanism in place to where we could keep teachers instead of them just saying, well, screw this, I'm out. Because that's kind of what's starting to happen, is they're just piecing out.
I feel more comfortable with a control mechanism rather than a, because it feels to me like, it's time for me to put my name on the list for transfer like they're used to at second semester. And they can start applying, for positions. And I'm just concerned about that.
Okay.
So if we can just put that on a shelf, we've discussed 17.4 and then kind of come back, is that okay?
I'm okay with that.
17.41.
I'm okay with that.
Mary Ann?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I guess for me, if we're going to move on to talk about hardship, one of the things that became, after we agreed, with all due respect, we felt like the term hardship was narrowed to a ridiculous level. And that makes it difficult to use that term. So perhaps if we don't want it to be full, maybe we need to broaden or better define hardship to encompass
something else,
something more than what it's currently being defined as.
I don't disagree. And I've got an idea in my back pocket, but I'm not ready to put it out.
Okay, that's okay. Well, then let's look at 17.4-1 then with the hardships. So obviously the part in C where we had stricken through that was to line up with 17.4 for continuity there. Because then we would say they couldn't do it in the middle of a semester instead of in the middle of the school year. In 17.4-1, in the list that kind of outlines what a hardship would be, we added D, applying for a promoted position per Article 18.4. Currently, right now, we are using the hardship transfer as a mechanism for people to promote, like from a classroom position to a non-classroom position. It's just not really defined. And so we felt that adding that in under that list would make it clearer that that's the mechanism that we have in place right now. So people could be promoted under that language, and that was the mechanism in which they would be able to transfer and be promoted. So that was the reasoning behind that. And then in the hardship paragraph below, we had stricken through the releasing principal must have a fully qualified and certified teacher to fill the vacancy before the transfer is approved. And we wanted to codify a time frame. Because if this is truly a hardship transfer and they've been approved by HR that they qualify for a hardship, we feel that it's disingenuous for them to not have a time frame in which they can actually leave that school. Because if it is truly a hardship, the releasing principal shouldn't be able to keep them indefinitely just because they can't find a qualified certified teacher, especially now that we're in the situation where we aren't having lines of applicants waiting to take their position. So essentially you're telling them, yes, you qualify for a hardship. We've approved you, you've applied. This other principal's hired you. This other principal's ready to take you in and wants to fill their gap, but this principal gets to keep you just because they don't have somebody else to come in behind you. And so we wanted to codify a time frame in which these people would know that they would be released to their receiving principal once they've been hired at a new position. And we had put in after 10 work days, which would be like a 2-week notice type situation.
I would offer, we first need to maybe talk about extending that, because the first note I made in the margin was 10 days. On a quick flip, we'll advertise a position for 5 days.
Okay.
Typically, we're going 10. And many times we're having to extend beyond that.
Okay.
So in the spirit of like running a typical 10-day advertisement, I'm doing that a lot now.
Okay.
The positions I'm advertising administratively or otherwise.
Okay.
I would ask that we discuss a timeline beyond 10, just to allow us to have a 10-day period to advertise and get folks in. And then
So are you thinking more like 20?
we've used the 20-day piece before and other times, you know. And I know admins and teachers are probably used to it because, quite honestly, that was the old language.
Okay.
It had a 20-day window to work from. So.
Okay.
And there's still a perception out there that 20 days still applies, although there's nothing in the contract that suggests it.
Yeah.
So, you know, we do have a history that predates me on that 20 days.
And actually, when I was going back and looking at the parent ESP transfer language too, after we had written this, they still have a time frame in their contract with 20 days releasing. So I think we would be agreeable to looking at a 20-day release, but we need something with a time frame that these folks that have been approved for hardship know that they can't be held indefinitely, because if they truly have been approved for a hardship, they need to be able to move to their new place. And it's, again, I think disingenuous that the principal gets to keep them.
So now I'm gonna, let's kind of marry 17.4 and 4.1 for discussion for a second.
Okay.
Because if, my point for discussion is this. So if we don't swing the door open on 17.4, we create a mechanism under hardship transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would offer is perhaps rather than having it be, it's usually me or Tony that has sat in that review.
Mm-hmm.
And we discuss and have conversations back and forth with your team. But I would offer that there's another place in here tonight. I think it's the Probationary Review Committee.
Yeah.
That language. If we had something similar, except relative to hardship, we could do something similar. So we're all kind of discussing and we're on the same page, and it might be able to accomplish the priority or need that you need here, but would allow us more control collaboratively to discuss that school by school, case by case.
So what would that, so in going up to 17.4-1 in the list, would we need to add something to that list that there would be a mechanism in place?
Something that would grab the spirit of your request for transfer that you've had in 17.4. I mean, we could shopsmith it.
Okay.
I'm not trying to impede that, but I'm trying to control it.
Yeah.
Just what you just said look like.
What would it look like? I would have to think about the language, but I would probably come back down in here into 17.4 and say that, well, we wouldn't need a timeline. We would just offer, we have our reasons of mileage, we have medical, and we have personal. And we have promotion.
And we could, are you okay with that promotion language being added?
We're going to talk about the promotion language shortly.
Yeah. But just since we already have that as a mechanism.
Why couldn't we discuss to add an E that would be just request for transfer, I guess. That's
so like a general request for transfer.
Right. Open for Tony. How does it feel for you on your side, because you deal with the hardship a ton?
I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to an E, just general transfer, because quite frankly, it's gonna be deemed a hardship by the principal or anybody that's losing the employee, but then also the potential employee that's just not happy at a location or it's not working out.
Yeah.
It's a hardship for him or her to continue to go there every day and struggle in that environment. And so
Where we could fill another classroom with a good teacher and then everybody's.
right.
So would you, so in the actual title, should we just maybe strike through hardship and just call it transfer requests during the school year?
I'm okay with that.
You know, and then it lists out like what you can transfer for. If we're gonna allow for this, so just let me, hold on, I got something. Okay, I got something going on here. So maybe in the E section, if we do general transfers, and then that's contingent upon a joint review committee. And then we just say transfers during the school year.
So is the review committee a district-wide committee?
So
Some PEA, some
yes,
district?
so what we had proposed,
Your probationary.
what we had proposed for like the probationary contract.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just think let's because you see, I just want to remind us, right? You guys are a big organization and there's 4 of us here, right? So, although I don't disagree with the committee, you know, it's always good to have a committee and do that. I want to go back to your 4 because I'm reading Fort 17.4, and if I was to close my eyes and hear the conversation, I get the impression that transfers are automatic. In other words, once you apply, you're in like Flint. But as I'm reading the language, it doesn't seem to say that. It seems to say, correct me if I'm wrong, right? It says a transfer will not be considered unless the teacher has taught in the district. So there's some requirements there for consideration. And it's fully qualified, certified vacancy, et cetera. It's the responsibility of the teacher. Okay, so there's some responsibility built into the language. The receiving principal making his decision shall consider it. So there are these mechanisms built into the language itself that seem to provide a check and balance. And if I'm reading the language at the end of the day, once you've done your analysis as to whether or not this transfer is viable for the operation, it's either yes or no. If it's a no, then it's just attaching the explanation, no, because, what have you. That's sort of how I'm reading this language. Because if you're implementing this language as an automatic, in other words, I apply for a transfer, I'm gone, I'm out of here, you know, it's not necessarily how I'm reading this.
And I'm just offering, I want to continue a discussion about some control. Stephanie mentioned on the front side, you know, that she didn't want it wide open as well.
Yeah.
She wanted it kind of controlled. So I was trying to reflect on a way we could do that collaboratively. Because I'm concerned that on 17.4, if you say, oh, after the first week of school, if you're not happy, we won't see one, we'll see. It'll look like the list at semester when they're ready to put their list on the intent to transfer, you know? And I don't want to create that environment.
I just see a committee, a joint committee, to be quite a snafu place. It's huge. We're a huge district with a lot of teachers and a lot, you know, it becomes to me very problematic to try to do that by a committee. And is there, you know, then my next question would be, well, if the committee says no, who do you appeal to?
Well, and I was going to add to that, quite honestly, I'm not waiving my right to make the final decision anyways. So
Right.
a committee would be making a recommendation to my office, not a recommendation that's going to carry a requirement.
Right. And
Well, then it probably just makes more sense than to have that housed with HR like it currently is. And then
It's legit. I mean, it's a legit HR function. I think you go through your analysis to whether or not this transfer is viable, and if it just isn't viable, then.
And I can tell you for what it's worth, just to put it in the room, I review all of the hardship transfers, and I can tell you that out of all of the ones that we have received, based on the current language, if you take away this, 95% of them have been approved.
Yeah.
so for me, I think especially right now, it's salient. What some of the ones that got squishier when we changed the language, and we did jointly change the language because we knew that the churn was a problem. But certainly in a county that's geographically the size of a state, energy transfers are a huge issue. with gas now at $4.39 a gallon when I just drove past my gas station. You know, that's going to at least a short-term issue and possibly a longer-term issue depending. So to me, part of this defining hardship to be perhaps maybe a little more broad or a little more, and I'm happy to hear you're saying that 95% of them get approved. That's good, because obviously if people are in need, they're, you know.
And it really comes down to the two respective principals being able to work with one another. And I think that that's where therein the date certain or the 20 days certain would help to kind of reinforce that
Conversation,
particular conversation and that mechanism. To Brian's point, it gives us a chance to advertise at least twice if we need to, if we're not able to get the position filled immediately.
No, it looks like we have mutual agreement on the 20 days.
Yes.
But I think the language that Stephanie's proposed, I don't think that, and I agree with Mr. Hyde, I want to keep that in HR's hands. I don't really want to sit in the committee and go through 5,000, God knows how many transfers, but but I think the language just actually enhances, what we're putting on the table, I think enhances that language without taking it away from HR.
Well, 20 days, you see an end in sight. And at the end of the day, you are not going to end up having to plug two holes. Yes, you'll have a hole back over here with the releasing principle, but at least the other place is, and it gives the principal, like you said, 2 rounds to potentially find somebody.
How does A apply? How does that qualify for hardship transfer? That you have to?
It cuts out probationary contract teachers right now. So probationary contract teachers can't utilize the hardship mechanism.
Right. I understood that. I just don't believe it belongs there. Because you're going into the actual request is defined as, that's not a definition that would qualify somebody necessarily based off hardship. That's a prerequisite requirement that would even make them eligible for the transfer. Eligibility versus meeting the hardship requirement are two different things. So as we try to do cleanup, I think you could just add a sentence there that says, before hardship transfer can be requested, the employee recognizes they must have been employed fully for 1 full year.
Well, actually, we could probably just strike through A, because if above it says teachers that have completed their probationary
Then strike
period
it from there, because it really doesn't.
are allowed. So then really A is not needed.
Because I'm looking at those bullet points, even though they're lettered, as more what qualifies me as for a hardship transfer based off my hardship.
So I mean, we could just strike through A, because it's already stated above that you have to be out of probationary status to access the hardship transfer.
How many of these do we deal with a year?
I'm gonna say
Anywhere between 35, 40, it just really depends.
Mid-year transfers or?
All of them.
Hardships, yeah.
Hardships.
So anything in the middle of the school
just
year.
these,
Right.
because we've limited them on over here. They can't.
And typically, Mr. Hyde, they line up under the B and C category.
That was my question to Brian. Why is D even in there?
That's new language.
We added D.
But that's not a hardship.
Well, so that's what we wanted to discuss, because right now, currently, we have promotion language in Article 18 that allows for them to be able to move into a promoted position. But the mechanism we're using in, I guess, your system on the HR side to move them is the hardship mechanism. And so we wanted to make that clear.
Otherwise, it can't happen.
Or, yeah, that a promotion would, you would apply for a hardship transfer if you're looking to apply for a promoted position, because that's currently the mechanism that HR has to move people to a promoted position.
Right, during the school year, right.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to understand, say it again. How is a promotion considered a hardship?
It's not, but.
I got a good idea. Let me try.
Okay, go ahead.
So what we suspect, like when I work in your system, what we suspect is that when you've had a promotion, in order to, in your administrative process electronically, to make that happen electronically, you got to click the button that says hardship. Otherwise, it doesn't happen.
Is that true?
I was looking for my
That's
promotion
fine.
language.
That's fine.
You have to click the button once.
Like in order to transfer them mid-year, at least the way we've understood your
In order for
system.
them to be able to apply.
Apply.
Because,
Yes.
because,
They've been approved for the hardship.
Yes.
right, yeah.
So they
yeah,
can't
that's-
apply for a promoted position.
Opens them up in RHS.
Yes.
That's right.
So they can't apply
Right.
for a promoted position unless they actually been approved for under the hardship.
Right.
That's the only
Mechanism.
mechanism right now on the HR side to move them
Otherwise, the system.
in the middle of the
doesn't
school
let it
year.
Hmm.
So while promotion, yes, you're right, is not a hardship, but the only mechanism, and for the employee, so the,
Requirement or convenience?
happen. That's.
I
that's
don't
you.
know.
It sounds like something in your system.
I think it's
It's been
System room.
a way to control the transfers, you know.
Right.
so,
That's what it has.
yeah.
And if
So that's why I'd even offer, I think right
I'm
before.
an employee with less than a year's experience and I apply for a promotion, am I eligible for a promotion in my first year, in less than a year service? Why not?
We've had that discussion internally, you know. We do have some probationary teachers that come in and then they'll jump into because they have experience from another district or
Right.
out of state, and they jump into a TRST or a position in the district, or they'll go into a coaching
Or
situation.
dean or
Um,
something like that.
So how do we transfer them?
Hardship.
But they don't qualify for hardship.
I think we need to kind of.
That's my point.
I think we need to do two things here. I agree that it's not a hardship, but
How we
what
game
we've
this?
done historically,
Yeah.
is that's how we do it in RHS.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
We're working
systems issue.
inside with
Okay.
the programming of
Okay.
RHS to
Right.
try to have not just hardship, but a probation, I'm sorry, but a,
Promotion.
A way to promote.
correct, so they could click.
And everybody
that
just
as
understands,
well.
I'm still very new, so I don't. So you can override the 1-year requirement in RHS
We
to
can
qualify
trump it.
some.
Yes.
That's right, we can trump it, and we're trying to make another button that's more applicable.
So like in
Exactly.
staff portal, because
Yeah.
I know the conversation that we have to have with folks when they ask about that is because in staff portal, the way they see it, it's hardship.
Because historically, when we bargained this,
Mm-hmm.
then we programmed RHS to not allow anybody to move in the system
Right.
after school started.
Right.
And so the only way you can move in the system was if you had an approved hardship transfer. Well, then we had these promotions that we knew were legit, that we wanted to work with accommodating. So the only vehicle we had programmatically.
That's hardship.
What's hardship?
That's the button.
And so that's why we're working on it.
And that's a reaction to, I'm assuming that that's a reaction to whatever was going on before that language came about, where they were doing a lot of transfers and what have you. So
So we're trying to get another button, but it could live in its own little.
It doesn't limit
It's the.
somebody with less than 1 year. I was
No.
concerned.
No, and then I know
So
we're
then-
going to talk about the language for promotion later as well.
Yeah, so then we might want to, if, I don't know when that is on your side would be fixed
It's been
or,
requested.
okay.
The
So
hopper now.
would it be better then if that's in the works than to move the promotion language where it already resides in Article 18 and take it out of hardship?
I like it. Well, honestly, I wasn't sure why it lived under vacancies, but we have 18.4 promotion. It's already embedded
Yeah.
in the contract there. I'm okay if we just have promotion live in one place.
Okay.
I'm not sure promotion is, as Mr. Hyde has reflected, a hardship.
Yeah. We when we had put this out to you guys, we just knew that was the mechanism in which
Right.
you did that. And so we wanted to make people understand that if they wanted a promoted position, they had to apply for the hardship before they could even apply for the job.
And clearly, I want to be clear, we've not ever stood in the way or wanted to implement that. And
That was just a mechanism there.
Mechanism, but I'm not sure, to keep our language clean, maybe we should just live over.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, especially if RHS is working to be changed to make that more clear in the staff portal side.
What I'm going to propose is if we can move on to the rest of your presentations for
Yep.
Article 17.
Mhm.
And then we'll probably take a caucus for a time to reflect on 17.
Okay,
And we'll come back together.
I'm okay with that.
Keep on with our
Could
discussion.
I put one thing on the table?
Yeah.
'Cause I really haven't heard it addressed, and I'm missing it or I'm not getting it, and it happened at my school. Not a first-year teacher in Polk County. Not happy. Quit.
So they were on an annual contract.
Oh,
They were on,
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
okay.
But they quit where maybe how could they have possibly, if we're going to put in new language, How could they possibly have moved at second semester to be a happier person?
I think there's a part of some language that we've yet to discuss on probationary contracts.
She's not probationary.
This was a probationary teacher.
She was not probationary.
So,
Well,
then that would mean
That's
she
why-
would have resigned, and she would have likely been annual contract, continuing contract, or PSC, but likely annual, I would bet.
Probably.
And she
Based on her
resigned,
age.
which I can't control, but what is more,
But if she had been able to transfer, because from what I hear, she was unhappy for a while, if she could have been able to get out at the second semester, and she's a math teacher.
So do you still have is there anything in place where if I did that, if I wanted to move, but it was mid-year and I couldn't obtain a hardship and I resign, is there any block to my turning around and getting hired 2 days from now at Lena Vista?
Where there's a.
Well, doesn't the
60 days,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
60 days?
60
Okay.
days. And that's another reason in transparency that we're going to talk about the probationary piece, because I'm trying to make sure we're preserving our human capital. I need not to create churn and create a mechanism where they can just resign and come here and go there. I need to have a thoughtful process, which is why when we talk about the probationary review committee, that's going to, I think.
Well, see, here's the problem in that 60.
To your point, if it's an annual contract and she's resigning, that's
But
hard for
maybe
me
she
to get in
wouldn't
front
have.
of. I know, that's hard for me to get in front of. And if it's only because of the transfer provision, I guess just to be direct, those are people that I want to know about to see if we can get in front of them and get creative and save them, if you will. Not that they need saving, but try to preserve them as human capital.
Well,
if we
it's
value
60,
them.
60 days. I mean, I understand why that was, you decided to put it in place, but 60 days surrounded by as many contiguous counties as we do, in 60 days, I will have found another job in another county. And I go back to saying that with this conversation is very important to have to maintain human capital and not to go from having one hole we need to plug to having two.
And I wanted to give a history piece, and I think we will all know or remember, but there are times we've been to job fairs or we've had job offers given to, teachers fresh out of college or fresh to our district. They're happy to get the job. And a few weeks go by and they realize, oh, well, I can go over to school Y instead of school X and I'll have less classes. And this is a name the kind of school it is or whatever. And they'll resign or they'll quit and go over here. So it's hard to create that roster of teachers and build that schedule for principals. And that goes on right up to.
Well, it's just not appropriate.
Yeah.
Just call it, that's unprofessional. So we're not going to encourage that or incentivize that in any way.
Right.
So
That's
then,
why we put those mechanisms in place.
so can I just say then at one point, then y'all had proposed adding another letter that just said like a general request. Can we then maybe possibly look at keeping something like that in there for working conditions or job satisfaction under the hardship transfer?
I hear what you're saying, and I would like to have an opportunity in a few minutes when we go to caucus for all of us to just kind of talk about those ideas behind the scenes, and we'll come back together.
So Brian, does your team, do we want to stop now and talk about 17.4 and 17.4-1? And then come back, or do we, so we want to, let's go through the rest of it and then. Let's do that.
Probationary in there.
Yeah. And so in 17.4-3, we wanted to address probationary contract teachers and give them some mechanisms to where a principal just can't say, you're done, hand in your keys. Sometimes it's a personality conflict. And again, we're in the environment where there's a higher demand than a supply for teachers. And so if it's truly a personality conflict or just something's going on and they're an effective teacher, we want to try to keep them. And we do recognize that you have a management right to let them go in their first year under Florida statute. We understand that. But we also wanted a mechanism in place that there's a review of before that teacher is let go and has to go through the 60-day and then reapply.
Probationary teachers don't have to go through the 60-day. They're released, they can turn right back around and come right back in the door.
Well, and I
They're
guess.
just placed on another probationary period after that.
And I guess, okay, that's good to know. But I think what I was getting at too was that if it really just is a personality conflict, why can't we just move them. And then that way their probationary time doesn't have to start over again.
So I want to get in the weeds.
Yeah.
Because there's really only two groups of probationary teachers in this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
There is the group that's hired day one,
Mm-hmm.
and they work through the end of the year, and then they're going to be granted the annual contract, and they can go to the fairs, they can
Yeah.
put their name on the transfer, intent to transfer list,
Yeah.
and move about the cabin.
Yeah.
There's the other group that's hired on any date after the first day. It could be the second or third day.
And then they're the year.
And they're going to roll over into the year. That's why this transfer language is important, I understand. But, I'm concerned about this language for that second group.
Okay.
Because if my anniversary date is in September of the following year, then I'm saying I'm eligible to transfer on that anniversary date.
Mm-hmm.
And that concerns me again.
So again, this kind of lines up with the language from 17.4, and so that they would be eligible to transfer for the next semester. So like if my anniversary date's September.
But if that's the case, I think we need to tease the language out. 'Cause
Okay.
It doesn't say anything about semester in 17.4.3. It just says on the date, probationary contract teacher shall not be allowed to seek a transfer until the date.
So I guess that lines up because it's more detailed in 17.4. They could put their name on an intent to transfer and they can't transfer until the semester. That was the intent there.
Okay, so I'd say we need to tease that
Okay.
out a little bit. I think we're saying the same thing
Yeah.
in philosophy and concept.
Because again, I don't think anybody here wants, again, the churn. We want some structure and control to it, but we wanted a mechanism that if that teacher has completed their probationary year, that they had an opportunity that at the semester break, that if it wasn't a good fit and they stuck it out and now their annual contract, that they had an opportunity to move into another school, into a vacant position in which they were qualified for. Because essentially what happens if we hire them even the second day of pre-planning, that's their anniversary date. And then if they're not happy at that school, they're at that school for 2 school years essentially. And then more likely than not, they will just leave. And then again, you have 2 classrooms that have a hole instead of 1 potential classroom with a hole. I think
Is
that.
there any further discussion on Article 17 before?
Oh, yes. So go to 17.7-1. We were proposing getting rid, because right now we have 2 lists, the permitted to rehire and the displacement list.
That was just semantics.
Yeah, and so we were proposing to strike through permitted rehire and just calling it a displacement list.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I didn't have any.
And then that just, you through like 17.7-2.6, it's just crossing out permitted rehire and then just calling it all a displacement list. Okay. All right. That was it. That was for 17.
All right.
You guys need to caucus?
Yeah, I'd like to take some time. We'll go.
Yeah, you can go in the small room. We have a fan in there because that room gets a little warm.
Need another one, just let me know.
And so right now.
Sandwich rings in. And,
The sandwich, they are here. So if you want to grab a sandwich ring on the way to your caucus room, please grab some sandwiches. So what we will do right now is we will pause the live stream and then we will come back when we are back from caucus.
I don't think there's.
And we're online.
Okay. All right. So when we were talking, we thought maybe crossing out hardship, like we had, Brian, I think you said you guys were okay with that? Yeah.
That's
So just crossing out hardship and calling it transfer request during the school year. And then that way a promoted position could also just be added back because it's a transfer during the school year. It's just a promotion. And so what we were thinking, we want to see what you guys thought, is maybe separating C out to where you have the serious medical problem, which can be substantiated by a physician or an acceptable written explanation as determined by the superintendent. And then adding in, it's separating the personal problem or concern out into its own section. So that people can see, well, if they have a medical reason or if they have like a personal problem or concern, with an acceptable written explanation. Yeah.
And then I would recommend.
Or conflict.
Employees meeting the criterion, let's return that.
Wait.
So it's its own, so it comes down right there.
Right here?
Yeah.
Stephanie, we talked about adding the word conflict.
Okay. So like this.
And I'm gonna be direct. That's where you're gonna grab those folks that have the conflict.
Yeah.
We need to get in the middle and talk about.
Okay.
That we might lose, to your point, when we left. And then let's drop down the employees meeting the criteria in this section. May apply for the medical personal problem transfer at any time and may be transferred.
Hold on. And then I'll.
Transferred. We gotta work on the tense there.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't just be deleting things, right? I should be striking through like a good person. Hold on. Okay. I was just going to take personal out here since we're only addressing medical.
Yep, I agree.
And then strike out medical here. Okay. So it's, sorry, go back. Employees meeting this criterion in this section may apply for a personal problem transfer at any time and may be transferred after the start of the school year. And then we'll get rid of this part because.
Doesn't apply.
And then are we okay with keeping E then
I
for
felt like we were
promotion?
gonna strike that. We were gonna talk about that over in the promotion language.
Well, the only reason I said that was since we are calling it transfer request during the year, not a hardship. Leaving that there so that, and then they can go to our 18.4 and look at it more specifically.
Right.
If we're not going to call it a hardship anymore.
It doesn't kill me. Seems redundant.
Yeah.
We have redundancy other places.
Yeah. I wouldn't want, my thinking is if I'm looking at possibly transferring during the middle of the school year, I may not know that promotions are in Article 18, but I may see it in this list, and that's a way that I can transfer if there's a promoted position. That would be what, as a teacher.
I'm going to make an argument for why we might not want it here.
Okay.
Because remember, we've established this hardship transfer process that we're going to review and go through and everything. So.
Well, but if it's not a hardship anymore, we're just calling it transfer request.
To your point, but then we probably need to work on hardship transfers.
Oh, yeah, we'll need to.
Through there. Places, because I'm still in the mindset of that as well.
So should we just say then teachers that have completed their probationary period are allowed to submit a transfer request, period?
Yes.
On a hardship.
Yeah. And then we can say, so here, hold on, let me just strike this. And then transfer request.
Is defined as.
There.
Yeah. A transfer request is defined as.
Right.
We good with that? Okay.
And then, do you want to scroll down? Because when we got rid of hardship, we still have that. We probably need to do a.
Yeah, we can go through and kind of clean that up.
It's the next two paragraphs, actually.
Okay, so let's just,
It's there. We'll just say transfers will be. It's in the second paragraph, a teacher who qualifies for the transfer.
Do we see any other hardship? Here, let me just do.
See it in the second one there.
Okay.
And when you're ready, I want to come back and talk about
Okay. And actually, Kat brought something to my attention. I had forgotten, I think it's 17.5. And it's just kind of cleanup because it says 10 days, but we said 7 calendar days. And I think because it was calendar, anyway, we can talk about that once we're done here. I don't want to get off track.
Okay. All right, while you're there at 17.4.
Which button?
Going through those, okay.
You want to change the 10 to?
Yes. Thank you. And I'm going to say.
And that catches that. That was one thing I wanted to talk about.
Okay. Should we say after up to 20 days, work days, because they could go sooner if it's agreeable?
No more than.
Yeah, not.
After no more than,
Not to exceed 20 days, no more than.
after no more than 20 days. Okay.
Calendar days, right?
Calendar.
Work days.
No, work days.
Work days.
Basically a month.
Now, if we could look at 17.3 while we're close here.
We always
Okay.
do those things as work days.
17.43. Okay. All right.
This was the one where we were talking about when probationary teachers could transfer,
Yes.
especially the group that was like hired after the week school
Yes.
started.
Mm-hmm.
We were okay with this, but we need to clean the language up and just put like at semester break,
Okay. So where?
we've already defined the semester piece. That's the important part.
So it would be probationary contract teachers shall not be allowed to seek a transfer until.
The date in which his or her probationary is completed. Well, why don't we say probationary contract teachers shall not be allowed, would be eligible to seek transfer upon the date in which transfer period is completed.
Okay.
At semester break, or they could seek a transfer at semester break
Okay.
upon their anniversary date.
Would be eligible. So probationary contract teachers would be eligible to seek a transfer.
The semester immediately following their anniversary date.
Okay, so get rid of until you transfer.
Semester immediately.
So probationary contract teachers would be eligible to seek a transfer the semester immediately preceding or following. Not preceding. I think Sandy had said that behind me, following his or her probationary period anniversary,
The completion of the probationary period.
the completion. Yeah. The completion of his or her probationary period.
Probation.
That's good.
So probationary contract teachers, we say will be eligible. That makes it better. Will be eligible to seek a transfer the semester immediately following the completion of his or her probationary period. We're good with that? Right.
Now can we go up to 17.4?
Yes.
I have some suggestions I want to talk about, but before I do, I want to make sure I understand the second sentence. These requests are for the following semester. Such transfer request shall remain active until 7 calendar days before the first teacher contract day. That, it feels a whole lot like, oh, put your name on the transfer list so you can transfer and apply. You know, the original language where we have literally the hundreds of people
Yeah.
with their name on the list. And I just want to make sure that says what we want it to say.
Okay.
And does what we want it to do.
So what's your suggestion to make that
I
clearer?
just wanted to make sure, I wanted to know why
So let me read that.
why you did 7.
So
Let's think about what we're talking about. We're saying it's going to be a transfer semester.
Yeah.
So we're either going to do it at the beginning of the first semester or second semester.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, my name is on a list, so it's going to remain active until 7 calendar days after the first teacher contract day. So that applies to like a first semester application.
Yeah. Okay, I see. So we need to add something that addresses second semester.
That's what.
Okay, I got you. I'm following you.
Can I ask a question about something I'm not sure works very well? So when we said that somebody had to put their name on a transfer list if they wanted to transfer, originally what happened is people put their name on a list if they wanted to transfer. But if they didn't have their name on a list by a drop dead date, which wasn't necessarily in the contract, the district said that you couldn't contract. So we had people who wanted, like, so this is the one I remember. I'm a media specialist. I'm a third grade teacher, but I have media on my certification. And a media position opened up, but I hadn't put my name on the transfer list. And now a media position opened up in June, end of June. I couldn't apply because I didn't have my name on a transfer list. So what ended up the union had to recommend was just put your name on the list, because if you don't have it on a list, and something opens up in the summertime, I don't know how effective that is. Don't you, this way you just only put your name on a transfer list if you want to when you want to transfer. And if something opens up over the summer, why couldn't I just?
That's why we struck through. So in that first sentence, it says a request for transfer shall be provided to the Human Resource Service Division via the staff portal. And the current language is anytime after the first day of the second semester through the last day of the current regular school year. So we struck through that. So that would give people an opportunity that they didn't have that. And like this year, it's June 6th. We've extended it past that to get probationary teachers that would roll into annual contract and opportunity to take advantage. But if we get rid of that, then they could transfer in the summer if a job opens up that they want to go into.
Without being on a transfer.
Without being on
the list.
They wouldn't have a date certain that they have to fill that out by.
They would just come in and do this.
So they would put their name on the intent to transfer. They could do that anytime in the summer up until 7 calendar days before the first teacher contract day. So that was the intent, opening it up for people that they weren't cut out of anything over the summer if like their dream job opens up.
Nobody who right by the end of the school year, nobody who has no intention to transfer has to put their name on the list anymore with this language. But if in July, a position that is the position of Cat Streams opens up, she can apply.
Yeah, and then from my understanding with what we were coming from is they'd still have to, like, the intent to transfer would be still there, because that would be the mechanism that would open up an application. And so they would still be able to go in and click the intent to transfer and then apply for that job. But it would close 7 calendar days before the first teacher contract day so that principals have some stability in their workforce. But that also gives another week if jobs open up that somebody could move into a job.
And it's not just my dream job came up, but, oh no, my favorite principal's not gonna be at my school this year. And I don't want Susie Jones as my principal.
Because I taught with her 20 years ago and she's a nightmare.
Right. So that's the other reason.
Yeah.
That you might want to.
And so this would take out that caveat that they had to have it in by a date certain, some arbitrary date, June 6th, that if something came up, and then actually what you would probably see is less people clicking that intent to transfer and freaking everybody out, because that's the only mechanism to do that and preserve their right to move in the summer.
I know.
And we recommend that.
Of teachers.
Yeah.
Do that every year just as due course.
Yeah.
So they don't miss an opportunity.
So that might alleviate some anxiety on school-based admin side too, because then you don't have people just clicking it to preserve their right to transfer in the summer.
All right.
That was the thought process behind that.
This is a huge paragraph for me because
Okay.
it's going to be a kind of a shift and a change, obviously, because of some of the questions we're getting.
Okay.
So for my simple person, we'll walk through this slowly for myself. A request for transfer shall be provided to Human Resources Services Division via staff portal anytime after first week of school. I'd like to propose that rather than a first week of school, we want to extend that to maybe 30 days or 20 business days of the approval of the transfer, because we've got that language in there. The thought process being, we don't want folks moving right at the beginning of school or at the beginning of getting school started. So we talked about anytime
20 business.
20, yeah, we can do the 20 business days.
Okay, so since we're kind of changed, because the reason we put this in with after the first week of school is because they wouldn't, when we had originally wrote this out, it was that they wouldn't be able to move until the second semester anyway. They were just kind of putting their name on a list. So it wasn't saying that they were moving. They were just kind of going through the process we do second semester.
So if that's the case,
move.
let's just keep reading that.
Okay.
So all I've done is submitted my name on a list.
Yes. And that's saying that I want to move at the semester. I'm not moving in the middle of the year.
So these requests are for the following semester.
Yes.
So again, let's stop for a minute.
Okay.
So I'm in the second week of school. I put my name on the list. I apply for a position. I'm made the candidate. So then the principal's going to have to decide to bring me in 20 days or not, or for the next semester. That's what we're saying, right?
I guess if they would qualify for hardship, they could move after the 20 days. But if they didn't qualify for a hardship, they can move it this semester.
And I'm struggling with us not having a separate hardship transfer provision, because when you think of hardship, you're talking about something that is extremely catastrophic, not necessarily the fact that gas has gone up and I now can't afford.
That is catastrophic.
But it is catastrophic for some people from an economic perspective, and we need to consider that. But then also a serious death or loss in a family, which would necessitate, I'm out here at Poinciana, but now I need to move in closer to Lakeland.
We had-
or something of that nature.
If you recall, we had somebody whose husband passed away unexpectedly
Help the kids.
and needed to help her kid
Right.
who was struggling.
Yeah.
And we facilitated, you worked with us very well.
Yes.
We facilitated that student and that parent moved to a school by their home.
Yeah. And so,
But I mean, that mechanism's really already in place under hardship, because that would be a hardship under a personal loss.
yes, but it's not reflected in the current language that we're proposing. We're looking to take hardship completely out of the equation.
Tony,
Yes, sir.
this is in addition to the hardship section, correct?
Yes.
Can we just put paren at the end of the highlighted section that says non-hardship transfers? And eliminate the whole issue? That way you have two separate policies?
We could
At the end of requests for transfer, put a paren and say for non-hardship transfers only.
make the other, I guess, go back. And
Yeah.
Then you already have a hardship transfer language. And I think that separates the two issues.
I think that's the question that
help?
Tony's asking is the question I had. Did we get rid of the hardship?
Right. And that's what it seems like in 17.4-1.
Okay.
And I don't think that that's our intent, or we
And
should.
clearly, this is like our group that most people are going to be
Yeah.
trying to access.
That's right.
For non-hardship
So
transfers.
now can you walk with me on
Okay.
the second semester? So I've obviously got latitude to put my name in the list anytime first or second semester. We said after the first 7 days of whatever school.
Should we put a days?
I apply for a position
Go ahead.
in February. So then we're saying that
That would be for the next school year, because that would be the next semester. Yeah, unless they qualified for a hardship to move in the actual middle of the school.
Or promotion?
Or it was a promotion, yes. Because that's already the mechanism where they can move in the middle.
okay. All right, so request shall remain.
So really, this language just opens it up to where instead of having to wait a full school year, they could leave their school site at second semester.
Fine. I need to caucus for 1 quick minute, because I think there's a piece of language that we can add there that.
Okay.
Well, if it's really short, we'll just stay live and you guys can go in your room.
Yeah, I promise it'll be short.
We're real close
Okay.
to being where we
Okay,
discussed as well.
so my team, we're staying live, so the mics are on. Just letting you know.
Best behavior then.
Best behavior, please. Well, actually, what we can do All right, perfect.
Are we live now?
Yes.
We are.
All right, so what we'd like to propose is in the sentence, these requests are followed for the following semester. I'd like to put after that unless mutually agreed upon. Because if we have mutual agreement between sending and receiving, we won't hold up the process.
So unless mutually agreed upon by
Building principals.
building principals? Okay.
Or by,
Sending and receiving is language we've used. in
we want to say
previous
building
articles.
principals because if it's a promotion too, we want to move, we just say supervising, I don't know, administrators.
Appropriate.
By receiving and releasing.
Hiring.
By appropriate administrators.
Because not everyone's under a building principal.
Yeah, so by appropriate
Administrators.
supervisors.
Appropriate, we need to.
Kept the language
Like administrators.
we have in other articles, we
By-
say sending and receiving supervisors,
Okay, sending and receiving supervisors.
because we have that in the
So
other.
releasing and
You want to, yeah,
Supervising administrators.
there you go.
by supervising.
All right, such transfer shall remain active until 7 calendar days before the first teacher contract day.
So do we need to add in,
Might just be.
okay, so do we need to add in,
That's
to deal with the second semester too?
Well,
Or 7?
It's going to be for a year, right? It's not, it's.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right.
And so
Okay.
that
no,
7 days
good.
lays on top of your, first week of school, right?
Yep.
Actually, if you want to keep those 7 days, they'd line up on top of one another, and it's
It's just a rolling.
Transfer shall not occur in the middle of a semester unless the teacher meets qualification for hardship, moving to a promoted position, or is being involuntarily transferred, employee seeking transfer. I think we're good.
Okay, so now so we're going to add hardship back into that?
Yes, we were going to put
Okay.
hardship back.
Okay.
I like that suggestion of the non-hardship. That makes that fluid and work for that purpose.
Okay, so then I will. Add this back.
And my last request is just throw your 17 point, was it 6 and 7 up there with that language?
Yes, and actually, again, so we're, sorry, before I leave 17.4-1, so we're going to get rid of the promoted position because it's discussed in Article 18. If we're going to call this a hardship again.
Okay to get rid of that.
Okay,
We're going to have it over on the other side.
okay. And was it? I was looking through my strike throughs. I know, I think it's down here.
It's twice or 3 times.
All right. So, okay, we're good with 17.4-3. Oh, Kat had brought up that I missed one. And so in 17.5, in the second sentence, it says all vacancies will be advertised for a minimum of 5 workdays, except for the 10 calendar days prior to the first week. We were going to say to kind of line up with the change and strike through 10 and add 7 calendar days prior to the first workday. To line up with the 7 days that is in the language above. Okay. Okay, and then voluntary transfers are the same. All right, then 17.7-1-2. Those changes, because right now, the permitted to rehire list applies for any annual or probationary contract teacher whose position is eliminated, who would have been recommended for reappointment, right? And it's just their position's eliminated, maybe their program's eliminated, whatever the case is. If an opening exists, shall be placed on a permitted rehire list. And so what we were suggesting was getting rid of 2 lists and just putting them into a displacement list. And then displacement's done by seniority anyway.
We had that.
Right? And so instead of the permitted rehire, that way, if they are probationary or annual contract, we put them on the displacement list. Their probationary contract's not having to start over again if they're rehired. And then displacement's based on seniority anyway.
It's tenure.
And then it's one less list that actually HR has to keep up with.
Have we had an instance of that happen in the last few years?
Yes.
We've always.
You did? You riffed somebody?
No, we've always.
Oh, we
done
didn't riff.
CC and
We-
PSC. I was
yeah.
saying we first do the CC,
Yeah.
and then we would next go to the
Yeah.
AC and then your
So
probation.
this is really kind of just cleaning it up because instead of having two lists, like you have annual contract and probationary permitted to rehire, just have them all on one displacement list and then it's done by seniority anyway.
But we
Right, so
have
let me
had,
ask this
we
for-
have had probationary folks not get hired by the first day of the school year and maybe get picked up somewhere down the line, which was never really quite, given that we still had openings, it never really made sense to us why we wouldn't have people in.
So to that point, so if you had somebody whose program was displaced at a particular school, so long as there's an existing vacancy, we would simply put them in that vacancy. They're not going to bump somebody else based off seniority because they prefer to be at that school, correct? They don't have that right.
No.
No,
They would have to be displaced by another article.
As long as there's an open
Outlines.
vacancy, they can be.
because the displacement is treated as an involuntary involuntary transfer because of a program or a position closing down. And so this is kind of just cleaning up the process. And then so we had had a strike through in 7-2 because it's called the CCPSC displacement list and just calling it the displacement list. And then again, striking through the permitted rehire list. And again, we just have one displacement list. And then that is the same, I think, in one more place.
I think 7.4 does what you need to do. You got the big list.
Yes.
7.4 establishes the priority.
Yes, so 7-4 establishes that your continuing contract PSC teachers, your seniority first, and it establishes that. And then I think that was there one more? Oh, yeah, and 17.7-6, there was one more strike through with that. And then that's the end of 17.
It is?
Yeah. So do we want to go back through it from top to bottom?
Ryan?
All right, are we, that's the end.
On
Good.
In Article 17.
So I'm going to do it one more, I'm just gonna read through it one more time to make sure that it flows right, and then I can print clean copies. All right. Yay. Okay, so no changes here. So I'm just gonna read it, just so everybody can hear it if you can't see it. So 17.4, request to transfer non-hardship transfers. A request for a transfer shall be provided to the Human Resource Service Division via staff portal anytime after the first week of school. These requests are for the following semester unless mutually agreed upon by supervising administrators. Such transfer request shall remain active until 7 calendar days before the first teacher contract day. Transfers shall not occur in the middle of the semester unless the teacher meets the qualifications for a hardship transfer, is moving to a promoted position, or is being involuntarily transferred per the parameters of 17.6. Should I say Article 17.6?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to, nobody said this except me. The first week of school, you guys come back like what, 3-4 days early? Is that the first, does that start the first week of school? Is it since from your first day with kids?
It's contract day.
Contract day.
Pre-planning.
So it would be pre-planning.
I like that better.
So it says contract day, right?
I was
Yes.
looking at any time after the first week of school.
Oh, the intent there was the first week of student week, the first student week. So should we make that more
First
specific?
week of school with students, if you want to be that clear. 'Cause
Oh,
that's why I asked the question, because they're. two
Gotcha.
dates.
so anytime after the end of the first student week,
That's fine.
after the end of the first student of school. Okay. All right. And moving on, 17.4-7, hardship transfer request. Teachers that have completed their probationary period are allowed to submit a transfer request. And then I need to get rid of, wait.
You're unstriking.
I'm unstriking because we are, yes, sorry, thank you for that catch. Okay. So we are striking through A, so we'll number these. So this will be the new A. Okay. So we have stricken through because it's redundant with the probationary teachers. New B, we separate serious medical and personal into their own separate bullets. That's it for that.
Technically, you have to put the D back in and strike through it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You're right. Thank you. Okay.
Since conflicts, new language, should it be highlighted?
Oh, yep. Thank you. Okay, so. Okay, so then hardship transfers down to the last. We are striking through the releasing principal must have a fully qualified and certified teacher to fill the vacancy before the transfer is approved because we have a time frame now. It's been added.
You need to change the first 10 to 20.
Did I? Oh, thank you. No, oh, yes, they have 220. Thank you. Once the receiving principal has submitted the required copies to the releasing principal and the Human Resource Service Division, the releasing principal has up to 20 work days to post and potentially fill the vacancy. After no more than 20 work days, the teacher will be released to the receiving principal.
And what is meant by required copies of anything that we've looked at?
That was in there before.
That's up there before. Usually it's like stuff we review. As they provide.
Is that something we need to clean up on y'all's end? Because that was already in there.
Just leave it as is.
Okay. And then we have 17.4-3, probationary contract teachers will be eligible to seek a transfer the semester immediately following the completion of his or her probationary period. And then 17.5 is changing 10 to 7 calendar days.
And let's pause there.
Oh, go ahead.
17.4.3, we're still meaning that they got to go back to 17.4 and put their name, go through that process,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't think we need to outline
I think so.
that.
I just wanted to make
Yeah, no, that would be what they'd have to do. And then involuntary transfers are not changing. And then the last bit is the changing the pre-hired list to just having displacement list. All right, Dave.
I was gonna run for it.
I'll bet.
Okay. Woo, that was a big one. That was a big one.
Hey, a whole article finished on the first day. That's a good deal.
Less than 2 hours.
Back to functional.
Your sandwich delivery is slow.
What time is it up there?
5 o'clock.
I'm like, it's 5 o'clock here.
I should have brought you.
I've got a flat of strawberries in my truck that got delivered today. If I had more strawberries, I can offer you more.
If I'd known, I should have brought you a jar of pickles.
Best pickles.
I saw that.
I actually wanted to go buy one and make great dinner.
First, I thought.
Strawberries are my favorite.
No,
I don't know if it was in.
oh, at the firefighter?
The
room?
apple a day
It was
says, yeah.
good.
Did you have some?
I didn't have any today. I had it the day of.
Well, they sent an
Well,
email
they've
saying
got
they're
like 12, I don't know, I thought it was 12
gallons.
12 gallons of
Yeah,
chili
no, I
to
won't be
sell.
eating it a week after the
12 gallons, my goodness.
Frozen.
fire department hooked up a big, huge batch of chili for a charity event.
Oh, that's nice.
I guess it wasn't cold enough.
I remember the summer they made shepherd's pie. You could go buy and order shepherd's pie and take it home.
The fire?
No, the apple a day, folks.
I love shepherd.
I've attached a copy of the attendance sheets.
I think
Both of
shepherd.
them.
Yeah, that's right.
It's good. I like it.
It's one of the best things back in,
Stapler, need a stapler.
like Alfred
I got to say,
Elementary used to cook for Fruitland Park. They're, oh,
Wilfredo.
Remember the East rolls were so good.
I remember teaching. I love the.
Here, I'll give,
Dude,
you guys sign, your two, I'll sign, and then we'll
I
swap.
couldn't eat it all in the short period of time we had for lunch.
So remember, sign the first page with the date, and then we'll initial everything else.
Alfredo left with his chair.
He's back without the chair.
I don't know what happened to your chair.
I did.
Next to sign, me and Jason.
That's it?
That's fine, or, yeah, them two.
I sign
You
papers
sign it
all day
later.
long. Yes, exactly right.
Sign it at the
I
end.
sign the one that matters.
Yeah. You only have to sign the very last.
Never. Every day. I signed everything. I think well, you missed it.
Hold on, you sign,
Think about it.
sign my copy first, and then I'll start signing theirs.
Can I do initials?
Initial the rest.
Perfect.
Oh, I didn't do
You
Do
sign.
the other
I didn't-
pages, I gotta send it back?
Yes, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
I didn't follow directions.
That's all right, we'll forgive you.
It's a great.
Yeah, who gets it next?
I got it,
You right?
wait, that,
Yeah.
All right, all right this time. You did
and
that.
then this goes to Brian. All right,
All right, Brian.
They're not cheaters, they're necessities.
And open salaries tonight, too. No fun sufferings.
We have two teams. It's pretty good. It's fun.
All right. What article next? Still got time.
yeah, let's keep going. All right. Okay, so do we want to look at 18 with the promotion language? That should be good. Kind of ties in with the transfer. Or I guess it's vacancies, technically is the name of the article. So on 18.4, yeah, very short, one-page article. We had added in, this is actually a definition from like labor. A promotion is also defined as an advancement to a position that is classified at a higher salary grade or in certain circumstances, an acknowledgement of significant greater responsibilities within the same grade. So the reasoning behind that sentence is sometimes a promotion is not necessarily like a classroom to a non-classroom. It could be like if I'm certified to teach biology and math, like I am, and maybe I'm teaching math, but biology gives me a supplement because I can get labs, reimbursed. It could be like I can get a supplement, or if I'm currently maybe classroom to classroom, but I have an ability to be like a football coach at a transferring school, that could be considered a promotion, even though it's a classroom to classroom.
Disagree.
And so that kind of lends a little bit more flexibility to what promotion is, other than just classroom to non-classroom.
And I've even interpreted it as if they can make more money.
Yes.
Relative to like 10 month to 11 month.
10 month to 11 month, or if they can get a supplement, like
If
if,
he's still within a teacher.
yeah. And so we wanted to add that in to kind of lend some more flexibility, that it's not just moving to a non-classroom position. So are you agreeable with that sentence?
Yes, because you answered my question, because I wanted to talk about like an additional month of pay and what responsibilities
Yeah.
in the same pay grade, whatever meant, so.
Yeah, okay. And then really 18.4-1, that addition, it just reflects the transfer language, and we can change the 10 workdays to the 20, like we had just agreed to. So that was just reiterating in this article so that it's all together what the outline of the expectation of moving is.
Yeah, I'm good with the 20.
Okay.
And I know we lifted the language from hardship over there, but I did make a note in my margin. I want to just ask, what relevance would commuting distance have with a promotion?
I mean, if they're applying for that position and they're looking to move, I would hope that if I live in Lakeland, but I want a job in Davenport and I'm applying for that job, that I'm choosing to drive that far.
My only argument, the reason for making that is I like the way it leads in. The receiving principal supervisor, when making his or her decision, shall consider general background knowledge, preparation, competence. As a supervisor, I'm not going to make the decision of whether you're my person on the basis of your commuting distance.
I lifted that from the other.
That was hardship.
Yeah.
I'm saying maybe it doesn't.
So maybe we can,
Right.
we can take that off. Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah, I literally just lifted that from the hardship because I was going to put that under, we were going to put that under.
We could clean out the commuting distance.
Yep.
And make it 20 days like we had over on the other side. It's the same.
Yep.
So, and competence, period?
Yep, and competence, period. So what that reads now is all promotions shall be approved and signed by the receiving and releasing principal supervisors with simultaneous electronic copies sent to the releasing principal or immediate supervisor in the Human Resource Service Division. The receiving principal supervisor, when making his or her decision, shall consider each teacher requesting transfer as to his or her experience, general background, preparation, and competence. So I'm going to take out, there's a second and. Preparation and competence. Once the receiving principal supervisor has submitted the required copies to the releasing principal supervisor and the Human Resource Service Division, the releasing principal supervisor has up to 20 work days to post and potentially fill the vacancy. After 20, and I'll change that 10 to 20.
After no more than.
Yes, thank you. And what was that actual?
After no more than 20 workdays.
After no more than 20 workdays, the teacher will be released to the receiving principal supervisor.
Reads well.
All right.
Okay.
Print?
Yep, I will get it.
All right.
I'll get it.
Who down?
Dang.
Well, that resolves physical situations that we've encountered in the past.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Oh, based on the history of negotiations here, this is like we're on a roll. We knocked down two.
Good, brother.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Semantics, additional copies of the roster, or we can just go with the one copy for all TVs?
I was doing.
Same night.
I was doing the copy just to each one, just so it's all together. I think Laura will appreciate that.
If she has a question, she'll call you.
Yes.
She on vacation?
She's with her husband in California for a conference with the church or something.
Oh, that's, that'd be nice.
And then when you guys are done, I'll attach the attendance.
Are you doing the attendance each?
Yeah, that way not all 30 of these folks have to sign it. And we take 45 minutes,
Right, with the feet to
right?
I didn't sign the second one.
Yes. All right. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, I'll give it to Denny.
Phone number.
All right.
Oh, did you here take this? You get all the CAs?
Yeah. No, we get ours.
Oh, I see.
Just transfer it to me.
Yeah, I gave it. So we'll keep ours. And Jenny has theirs. Okay,
All right, let's knock out another one.
let's get another one done. We're on a roll.
here, can we?
Food's here, so you-
Oh, actually, the food, let's maybe take a 15-minute, 20-minute break, and then we'll eat, and then we'll come back, because we are on a roll. So we're gonna go ahead and pause the live stream. We'll be back at 5:30. Okay? Break for dinner, and then we'll be back. Okay, perfect. All right, we are back. All right, so I think next up, the next one is for paid leaves. And this will apply for the teacher, para, and ESP sections for paid leaves. I sent you the teacher language because it's with the article, but the language is the same in the para Article 6 and the ESP Article 10. We are wanting to propose, let me pull up the 6. So looking through, it starts at 20.15 with association president leave. We are proposing to strike through president and rename it officer leave because we are proposing to duty release a second officer, and we have the funds to pay for that. And so really what you see here is we're using the same language by striking through president, just calling it officer leave. After the word president is mentioned, we say and one other officer. Upon election, the president and one other officer shall apply for association leave. Again, president and one other officer and one other officer. And so it's going to be the same mechanism that we already have set up for duty release of a president. And then upon election, when we have either the vice president or secretary-elect, whoever that's decided to go on duty release, we will then have them apply for association leave. Now, 20.16, what I found is that we have a past practice of union release days, duty release days for union leave. They are in the para and ESP contracts, but I went back into the 90s and somehow it didn't make it into the teacher contract in some iteration down the line. And so we want to make sure that that's actually codified in the practice we already have. So currently, the leave days that we have are 20 days per contract. So that's just 20 days for the teacher contract, 20 days for the para contract, 20 days for the ESP contract. What we are proposing is just doing 60 days total, so that we have some flexibility to use them as we need to. If we need to duty release 40 days in the teacher contract or whatever, we have some flexibility there. So it doesn't change the number of days that we currently have. It just gives us as an association some flexibility. So, and then we added that language in to mirror what is in the para and ESP.
And this is what we've been doing?
Yes, yes.
So this is not new language, it's just codified, and where it went in the teacher, because what's in the para and the ESP contract was written to mirror what was in the teacher contract.
And somehow it just got.
Help me understand, because I'm looking at para and ESP, because I wanted to just see it myself.
Yeah.
And that's 20 days.
So it's 20, right now we had 20 days per contract. So in the para contract, we can release 20 days worth of paras. We can release 20 days worth of ESPs, and we had the practice of releasing 20 days worth of teachers for any kind of like right now we had 7 people up in Tallahassee, right? And so we wanted the flexibility to not change the number of days, but just say the association has 60 days of union leave, not just 20 per contract.
And the other big thing we release for is our annual meeting.
Right.
And so we don't know who's going to get elected.
I'm not disagreeing with the concept. It's just the math I wanted to work through.
Yeah.
So if it's 60 days here, are you still going to leave the 20 days in the para?
No. It's crossed through and it reflects this language. Yes.
Got it.
And so
60 days across the 3 groups.
Yes, 60 days across the 3
Total
groups.
would be 60 and the math is the same.
And we just get the flexibility to move about the 3 contracts. So that's really all that is. In ESP 10, Article 10, that's where the paid leaves are for that. And so the change would happen in 10.7 for association leave days. And again, it's just striking through 20 and adding 60 for all collective bargaining agreements covered by the association. And then we've added in the, what I had for Article 10.10, association officer leave, it's the same. It's mirrored the same.
I got it.
And then para Article 6 is also the same. Where you have the strike through the 20 and it's adding the 60 for all collective bargaining agreements. And the only caveat here is that the para mirrors the teacher, whereas if a substitute is needed, we pay for the substitute. whereas ESPs don't have substitutes. And then in 610 in the para is where the association president leave resides. And so again, the same changes would happen. We would strike president and just say officer leave. And then after president, one other officer. It mirrors that language.
Got it.
Yeah.
Gotta open up the rest of the attachments. I got it.
You're good? Okay. So any discussion on that, or are you guys okay with that?
We're good.
Okay, all right, so I will print and, perfect.
I'm the language guy. Let's read that again and make sure that we haven't missed anything.
Good, which
Because I'm
one?
thinking about when we're all gone. And
Yeah.
people are wondering, what did we mean when we sat here tonight?
Which one are you looking at?
I'm just looking at the language that we're using in all of them.
Okay,
I'm on 10.7.
okay,
The school board will provide 60 days to be used as association leave days for all collective bargaining agreements covered by the association. I understand what we talked about as clear as a bell to me, but I don't want that to be misconstrued that it's 60 days for every
oh, yeah.
group and bargaining.
So what would you suggest to maybe make that clearer for you?
The school board will provide 60 days to be used as association leave days.
A total of?
Annually. Across all three.
So 60 days annually?
Yeah, not to exceed 60 days between,
Across all three.
across all.
All three contracts.
Okay, so, sorry, say that again.
Not to exceed 60 days.
Board will provide, wait,
The school board will provide up to 60 days to be used as association leave days.
okay.
We could even use the word cumulatively.
So
Oh, I like that cumulatively for all collective bargaining.
Right, I think.
Does that take care of?
Right,
Okay, so
because I could have read it the other way and argued.
No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Okay, so let me change that into the other contracts real quick. Up to 60.
I think it just makes it clearer.
Yeah. No, we're good with that. Now why you gotta go change font for me like?
I'm glad you're the tech person.
Good Lord. I had all these like the same Times New Roman, and then it wants to change it on me.
Good luck with the
Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you for the dessert.
Oh, yeah, thanks for the cookies.
Okay, so that now reads, the school board will provide up to 60 days to be used as association leave days cumulatively. Wait, hold on.
You're almost there.
Yeah, no, it didn't, for all, it deleted for all. Okay, sorry. Cumulatively for all collective bargaining agreements covered by the association. The Polk Education Association agrees to reimburse the district for the cost of substitutes if a substitute fills the open job number. And that part is reflected in the paragraph in case there's a sub, but not in the ESP because there's no subs for ESPs.
I think we got it.
All right, so let me save that and then I will print. Okay. So the one that's already on there, throw that one away.
Oh, I hate You're not wasting paper.
I know, it hurts my heart, but it's gotta go.
We recycle here.
We do recycle here. Recycle, don't throw away.
Knock on wood, I've not even heard the rain yet. I know it's coming.
Where's the attendance sheet?
Don't jinx us.
Oh, did you hear that?
I thought it just
I was
was
saying
raining.
something.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
there's some don't jinx us. Gonna totally miss us.
Just make 10 copies, just in case.
That's true.
If it doesn't rain, folks will be upset we canceled activities tonight.
Oh, yeah.
My thing says Bartow rain for the next hour.
It's coming.
It's here.
Then it just needs to stop by the time.
Yeah, just stop by the time we leave.
Don't open it
A little bit
inside.
of rain.
Already raining.
Bad luck. Oh, that was-
Bad luck.
Actually, that's multiple, actually.
That's multiple. This is 3 contracts. Kevin's getting the attendance rosters. Did Article 22 print? Or did I?
No, I'll go check. There was some other people.
Here, let me just print it again. Or you check first and then before we discuss it.
This is like a mortgage. Sorry. Like signing for one.
I mean, I'm really proud that we have streamlined this process.
Article 20.
20, sorry, that's what I meant.
Let's do- Still signing the previous article.
Right?
17, yeah, absolutely.
That's no joke.
Yes, it is.
I'm not sure where it is. Now, where is it at?
Huh? Okay.
You're talking about the old days of
Gosh,
trying to track it down.
so silly. This is
And how that started.
either the two. This is where your signature starts to look like trash.
Changes the rest of it. Verify.
Yes.
Ask a question.
I had to go on vacation.
I got it out of office like March 16th. He left an emergency. I'm sure he could. All right. Really on the year thing.
You know they can hear that, right?
It's not me.
Whoever's Dell.
You missed the page.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Thank you.
And then the pages would get separated, and you weren't sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So these are all the attachments for the attendance. Oh, yeah. Here.
She's coming out.
Protect. That's fine.
Okay.
Ten.
And then when that came, oh no, this is. Oh no, we're gonna get. Blame somebody for protecting.
Appropriate.
You got the other one, Jason?
We're almost there.
All right. Right. 20 teachers.
That's progress.
I think history is being made tonight.
What have we gone through?
How many articles?
3, 4.
Let's hit 3 right there.
Is it 3?
Article, what, 17?
All right.
17 was a big
And
one.
18. 17 was a big one.
Yeah.
Recent history.
Thank God for Brian and Stephanie.
All right. Tally ho. All right. So let's look at Appendix E. And that was right now that labeled pull virtual school teachers.
Oh, here's where she comes in.
And so what we, when we were looking at even last bargain, special activity pay, and I know that there is a need for part-time instructors like in our vocational areas. Right now they're being paid special activity pay like 1809, the 1920. So when we were looking at the Polk virtual school teachers in this appendix, there's a misconception when teachers are with Polk virtual that they're being paid off this. Or if they're a full-time Polk virtual, they're on the salary appendix B. And so this is for part-time Polk virtual, if they pick up part-time work with Polk virtual. And so what we wanted to do is clarify that. So Polk virtual teachers aren't saying, well, I'm getting paid this. No, full-time Polk virtual is on appendix B salary schedule because they are a full-time teacher with Polk County Public Schools. And so with appendix E, what we were wanting to propose was adding in pay for part-time Polk virtual school teachers and other part-time instructors. And so instead of trying to unravel the spaghetti noodles of special activity pay, and I think this solves Steve Cochran's problem with vocational part-time teachers when he's bringing them in for fire academies and whatnot. If we add in other part-time instructors to this appendix E, and clarify that this is for part-time Polk virtual, not full-time Polk virtual, I think we solve two problems here. It's more clear, it's clearer for the Polk virtual teachers that this is only for part-time Polk virtual work, not full-time. And then this helps the vocational part-time instructors be paid for actually teaching and not under the special activity pay. So
this, when the original Polk virtual formula was created, it was very flawed, and this is flawed.
okay.
I mean, one of the flaws in it is that they get paid $75 for student withdrawals, and it's not really fair.
Well, they get paid $75 for student withdrawal.
Yeah. That's a kind of a disincentive, isn't it?
Yeah. Interesting.
Because, and my wife's a virtual. So one of the most popular ones is driver's ed, let's say. You could easily have 400 kids in your driver's ed class and not spend 10 hours on that.
Yeah.
And we actually lose quite a bit of money, and we had talked about trying to phase out as much part-time virtual. So I'd like to come back with a little different proposal on this to try to make it more fair. Because if I'm a English teacher and I've got to grade
Essays and stuff.
versus someone just taking a computer course like driver's ed where they just,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it's kind of not fair.
So are you guys agreeable to adding in other part-time instructors into this appendix if we are going to have part-time work fleshed out? That way it helps some of our vocational part-time issues.
So let me make sure I understand the vocational. So like they're not regular employees during the day.
No, and they could be, let's say, because I know Steve had talked to me about if he's having a hard time hiring like part-time fire instructors for like the fire academies at Bartow, because they look at $18 an hour and they can make more just with their doing overtime at their other job, right? So they might be a full-time firefighter with, Polk County somewhere. And so he's having trouble bringing in part-time instructors. So they're not necessarily full-time Polk County Public Schools employees, but they're coming in like with vocational or industry experience.
Like it's their night job.
Yeah, it's just like a part-time thing either at night or even maybe during the day even. And that they're not being paid at a rate of pay that's wanting to have them be part-time instructors for those programs. Because we don't need full-time instructors for those programs. We just need somebody part-time. And so I know that it has been brought up with us several times that the rate that they pay those instructors isn't competitive enough to get them here. And so we thought that by bringing them, since we already had a mechanism in place for part-time work through Polk Virtual, and we're open to talking about what that looks like if we need to change that, if it's outdated, but adding in other part-time work without having to unravel all the craziness with special activity pay that we kind of ran into last bargain. And so that kind of solves the part-time vocational industry instruction time without having to unravel the craziness of special activity pay. So what are your thoughts with the other part-time instructional piece residing in Appendix E?
Sounds reasonable, but if you're open to it, I'd like to do a little research on within the system, make sure that works. Look at what other areas are paying.
Okay.
And see.
Because it may need to be differentiated a little bit based on fire.
Well, and maybe have a more in-depth conversation with Mr. Cochran too, with maybe what his needs are for the vocational industry part-time folks. Okay.
Yeah, we'll research, look at it.
Okay.
Check it out.
Yeah, I'd just like some more time on.
Okay, yeah. And I, Article 22 is with teacher compensation. We have a few pieces working with that too, but I think we didn't want to bring that today because there's still some language that we're workshopping, that we will be workshopping with school counselors and like speech language pathologists and some other of those folks. So that might be more appropriate to kind of tie in when we come into the joint budgetary oversight committee, kind of bringing those pieces in because they kind of tie with Appendix B. And this might maybe reside there too, even. So, cool. Okay. All right. So.
All right, Jason threw us off.
I'm sorry.
We had
Dang it, Jason.
That was just to be continued.
Neutrality?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we send that over? Yes, we sent it.
You sent yours, yeah.
That's under your email.
Yeah. You sent it separately.
All right. Got it?
Yep.
All right.
I got it.
So, so we're proposing neutrality language so that, and it exists in the teacher contract, there's a new section. It would be 4.1A, sorry. I need to catch up.
I got it right.
So in the teacher contract, it would be 4.1A, Article 4. In the para contract, it would be Article 5, 5.26. And in the ESP would be 4.26. I think that's right. Maybe not. Well, anyway, so we're proposing neutrality language because we're interested in organizing other workers within the district. Those that are eligible eligible to organize into our organization, to our association. And so what we are wanting to make sure is that the employer doesn't really play a part in any of that. In other words, you have a neutral position on it, neither here nor there, neither support nor oppose. We would do a card check. And then once we got 50% or more, we'll then bring that to probably Mr. High, right? Bring it to at the employer, put to the district for recognition. That's it.
All right, can I just ask one question?
Sure.
It's just like order.
Yeah.
As I'm looking at the contract now, 4.1 is right to organize. Do you want it as 4.1A or 4.1-1?
Either way, 4.1A or 4.1-1 is fine.
I think that probably follows the pattern of what we do with the -1.
-1 is fine.
I'm actually pulling up and separating it out right now.
Thanks.
Article are we in?
This would be teacher Article 4. Now, Wilfred, in yours, or did I?
I don't think it's on there.
Oh, I didn't drag that over. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
I told you.
It was my fault. That's my fault, guys. I'll make sure it's in the share drive in a second. You're like, where is this?
You got it. What you said was right.
Do you know what we're talking about?
That's what Dennis, she had a copy of that. She had
I didn't read it and just see if there's anything we need to talk about.
You have another copy by chance? I want to throw one at Tony.
I can share mine with hers.
Got one?
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's a good thing that you didn't take Spanish, instead you took typing.
Yes. Well, I mean, Spanish would have been very helpful too, but typing is also very helpful.
So relative to that language you're looking at for 4.1, what was like your impetus or like reason for bringing it?
Well, you've got classifications within the district that are non-union, right? They're non-union. They're not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. Many have expressed interest, right? And to continue this relationship building that we've been on, especially since the new administration has taken on board, this is probably the best way to kind of organize them. Of course, if they want to, if they choose, right? They have to. This is something they do on their own. The other option would be through PERC, which would be a campaign, which would be an election, which would be a whole lot of going on. So this is the best way to kind of maintain the positive working relation we've developed recently, And so that if you have a classification, for example, what are they called again? The provisional subs, as an example. If they sign cards and you have 160 choose to want to join, then we will bring that to you, and then you will voluntarily recognize them.
We have done this in the past with David Lauer, when David was in your position. When we did a voluntary recognition of the principal secretaries, we did cards. And the district stayed out of it, and we,
I don't know if you guys have been a part of that, but, you haven't. What tends to happen in the perk, we launch an aggressive organizing campaign. It's not you guys, but usually your middle managers get in the way and become a problem. And becoming a problem, it causes legal concerns. ULPs, unfilial practice charges, that sort of thing. And then it just gets, I think you use the word mucked up.
It does.
That's what it gets. Here is clean and super easy. You stay neutral. You don't interfere with it. Mm-hmm. They decide on their own. It's Florida. It's not New York. They can either sign or not sign. And if they do, we bring it to you openly and say, hey, we've got 51%. They're interested in being members of the union or forming a union.
Form a different union? Or
No,
They would be
part of
one of the three contracts.
One of the three
Another
contracts.
group,
Yeah.
Like the ESPs and the.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's what I meant, exactly. It wouldn't be a whole. Although the principals, I don't know, they're interested. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. I stopped buying them lunch more often. So.
You're robbing them over.
No. Is this something that you guys want to caucus on?
I don't think so. Team, do you want to have a minute to discuss?
Yes.
Okay. We'll take a few minutes and we'll unpack it. Do you want to stay live or do we need more?
Yeah, we can. I mean, if you guys are going to be more than, okay.
proposed differently.
Okay.
So we're ready to move forward with the language
All right.
that's proposed.
So I am putting it in like our format that we're used to seeing it in. And then, so I will go ahead and print the para and the teacher one, and I'm working on the ESP.
Can I introduce to them because I didn't send them the procedure. Not too much?
That might be too much for
Okay,
today.
that's too much. Yeah.
I'm thinking we're at 6:06. Let's,
We've had a very productive day.
Yeah.
we can still get done or not.
So I still got to send you guys the grievance procedure because I have some updates. So I forgot to send. Actually, I'm glad I didn't send it out because I caught some.
I can think on the fly, but I prefer to have moments to reflect on them.
Ray, will you make sure
Reflecting.
you send that to all of us? Like, I didn't get this.
I didn't get this one either.
So when you send
Oh,
that,
okay. I used the email that.
Sorry, I was sending it to them and then hoping that they would be disseminated, but we'll, sorry about that.
I get blamed for everything.
Especially the grievance one.
All right,
I think I sent it to Jason, Ryan, and Hyde. I think those were the three I sent it to.
as long as
And
it gets flipped to.
okay.
So I can't do
All right. Let's see.
This one. This one.
And that's the teacher review. That should be consistent with
Which one?
the probationary teacher review committee.
That was already. Oh wait, no, that was an article. That was in a different one.
Right. That was a new.
About 4.58.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can discuss that.
Make some copies, please.
That should be. Oh, wait a minute. She didn't. Yeah, you're right. Because she. Yeah.
Where are you going next?
The
That one.
probationary teacher review committee. All right.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, do we need to pause a minute?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
let's pause a minute.
Yeah. Go ahead and pause.
Yeah, let's pause a minute.
Oh.
I need to stretch my legs.
Okay.
I need my note.
I think we setting the world's record today.
Yes, we are rocking and rolling.
Pre-K.
Yeah.
I see what you meant by format. But then I always messed up.
Well, then I'll take care of that. I can be this person.
Are you still working on the ESP?
Yes, I'm fixing to save and
The one
print.
he was waiting on the.
Do we have, let's get some more. We need a few more of these.
You mean the 10 vice president?
Yes.
10 more of
Do it now.
Okay.
yours.
No, I'll flip it to you, to the two of you.
Yep, I'm fixing to do it now.
Okay.
Well, Laura had it, so I guess.
Brian,
Yes, ma'am.
we have had some negotiations many years ago to midnight.
We all got to go to work tomorrow.
I would just tell,
Right.
I would tell you.
We'll have to-
So it's limit, okay.
In the early, Brian, in the early years.
I don't know why I was.
Yeah.
All right, ESP's printing now.
I kind of remember, I mean,
Because I focused on this.
I've heard stories. I've heard stories.
You could have just flipped it across the table.
Oh, who's it for? Oh, I see.
That might-
Oh, they got it on their laptops.
He doesn't. He's not on the email.
He's getting ready to.
Thank you, thank you.
Double check your computer. I sent you two.
If you-
It should have everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did the minimum $15 an hour for districts, did that pass? Is that in the budget?
Yeah. That was, I think, what was holding it up.
Did what pass?
The $15.
The 15 minimum. That was
Yeah,
what was
they
holding it
haven't
up.
released the allocation for it yet.
Monday?
Implementing bill.
Yeah.
You and me.
That money from.
Bake sale.
Are you heading it up?
Oh, no, I haven't had anything that he's big. I do not want Wilfred to head it up.
Yeah.
Or you fly over to Colorado, bring back some ingredients and.
Hey now,
Bake sales.
we're live right now.
Just kidding, folks, just kidding.
We follow all state and
For the
federal
record,
guidelines.
I follow all state and federal laws.
Do some editing on this video.
No. You guys got finished ones?
They're right there, cross wide.
So now it's getting hot in here.
No, it's not.
I'm like starting to sweat. See, Mary and I know what's up.
Not you and Darren, it's me. Have your blood covered.
I blame Jackson. I've been like this since Jackson was born.
Break your thermostat.
He did.
Okay.
Hey, at least you won't get cold.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather be cold than hot. Being hot's horrible.
And cold and miserable.
You can put on another sweater.
All right. Those are the three. Demi. We're doing right.
Are you back to going to me?
Okay.
Want to give it a go?
All right. Probationary.
Review committee?
Review committee.
Okay. So we're proposing in the Teachers' Rights and Responsibilities, Article 4, a probationary teacher review committee. actually do exist. I didn't think they did exist, but because this language comes from one of our sister locals down in Miami, Broward County, yeah. And I think this is something that we, should codify. So I don't know, I'm not sure if you want me to read it, but the parties intend to ensure that an environment exists that encourages employee success on an initial probationary contract before making a recommendation for termination of an employee during an initial probationary period. And I wasn't sure, I wrote the human resources and PEA shall review the request. It shall have the option of offering the employee a transfer to another location, which may provide the employee a greater chance of success. Yes, sir.
And I was gonna say, because this paragraph is real easy for me, if we can just shopsmith a little bit. And the next one's gonna be more difficult, so I'm thinking if you wanna grab the first one, then we can dig into the weeds on the second one.
Sure.
I would recommend under human resources there, can we just let it reflect like we did in the previous language? I think you were using Human Resource Services Division.
Okay.
So we'll use that for flow. And then where it says it shall have the option of offering, I would recommend we discuss the parties shall have.
Human Resources Division?
Human Resource Services.
Services
That's right,
Division.
yeah. Our HRS,
Yeah.
Human Resource Services Division.
So let me.
Yeah, go for it.
Hold on. Just because I,
Yeah.
and actually I didn't realize this, we should have talked about it before we signed Teacher Article 4 with the neutrality. So what we can do is if we agree to something here, we can just take that page off, TA this page, and then insert it into what we just TA'd on the Teacher Article 4.
And I think that's what we called it back then. Was
Okay.
Human Resource, HRS.
Yeah,
Division.
so Human
Resource
Resource
Services.
Services Division.
There was another part where you suggested.
Yeah, where we have the word it on the next sentence, it shall have the option.
Yep.
The parties.
And I'm taking the
Guess I don't
simple
want to
and
be-
out and putting and the.
I know, Heather made fun of me.
So it shall, say that
doing
again,
that.
sorry.
Rather than we being
employer?
its, will be the parties.
The parties, yes.
I think, yeah, that's, let me flush that a little bit more.
Alright.
Yes, the parties, because I looked at that, and in your copy, you should see the word transfer sort of italicized. I don't know if
I
it,
do, yeah.
okay. So the parties shall have the option of offering. That means it's a mutual thing, right? And the power exists in the fact that, right, and that we.
Then we
in the minds.
contradict that in the next paragraph.
Yeah, and so probation employees, although I really want this language,
Okay, so why don't we just get rid of it shall have the and just begin the option of offering the employee a transfer to another location, which may provide the employee a greater chance of success.
Yes,
That
yes,
Tense
yes.
is not right, but let's start it that way and end it.
Say it one more time.
So say, yeah,
We'll just get rid of it shall have, and we'll begin the option of offering the employee a transfer to another location, which may provide the employee a greater
that's not a
chance
full
of
sentence.
success.
It's not a sentence.
We're gonna end it somehow.
The option of offering the employee
Will
What
be
comes
available,
before
will be
be
available.
reviewed.
We'll be.
The option of offering the employee a transfer to another location will be reviewed.
Right. I think that flows better. And it takes care of your parties piece.
Yep, which may provide the
Sets us
employee
up
a
for
greater
next
chance for
paragraph.
success.
Now you're ready for the next paragraph? We'll wait for the,
Yes.
all right.
Okay. So the decision of the associate,
Yep, I had that in my notes too.
okay, superintendent of human resource services shall be final and binding, and the decision shall not be subject to the grievance procedure. Nothing in this subsection shall be deemed to waive an employee's right under local, state, or federal law. A probationary teacher who completes the probationary period is not renewed, but is subsequently rehired or reinstated by the first day of school of the following year shall not be subject to any additional probationary period.
So I had some notes here.
Okay.
I'll walk them through in transparency. A probationary teacher who completes the probationary period. So that means they've taught the whole school year. I've already talked about my two groups there.
Yeah.
And is not renewed. So at that point in time, I'm concerned about the language of probationary. I had the language of completed a school year. And I don't know if that actually does it all the way, but my thought is if they've completed the school year and they're not renewed at that point in time, if they've worked the first and the last contract day, then they're moving on to an annual contract. Because if they've worked the first contract day, we've had this discussion, we're going to release you several days before the last contract day so as not to run amok, like that word, of the statute, which says that you've worked a whole year.
Yeah.
So that's where I got tangled up here.
Okay.
I've not got a problem with the philosophy of it, but I just want to be clear on the language. So a probationary teacher who completes the probationary period and is not renewed.
I don't think you can complete
Maybe the
a
problem is
probationary period.
completing the probationary period.
Exactly, because because if you complete the probationary period, you're awarded an annual contract and you're going to be renewed.
So maybe it would be a probationary teacher who does not or has not completed the probationary period and is not renewed or is released.
Okay, so I think that fixes it.
Right.
And so a probationary teacher who has not completed, the probationary period and is not renewed, but is subsequently hired or reinstated by the first day, I would say the first teacher contract day, not the first day of school.
Yeah, that's from
The first teacher contract day of the following school year shall not be subject to any additional probationary period. So the way that reads to me, if a probationary teacher who hasn't completed, let's say they're let go May 15th, and they have 20 days left on their probationary, if they were to finish.
Break in service then.
But I guess
So
what
then
we're
they have
saying
to begin
here,
again.
so I guess what this would say is if we had them and then they were let go, that if they're rehired, that they would have 20 days and then they could be annual contract.
I don't think we can do that by statute, because at the time that they're released, let's just say I make the decision, nope, can't do it. There's a break in service at that point in time, because then they've got to reestablish and begin again.
Right. And that's
It's my intent.
Okay.
I don't want to have that happen. I want to,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you that if they're let go
I got you.
before that last contract day, then it's all bets are off by statutes to break in service.
So,
But now we do work internally. If
Yes.
there's the break in service, I can try to bring them, if they're hired and brought back in, maybe their fingerprints are still on file. We can do some different things to try to fast track them back in for onboarding.
okay.
But to say you're released or let go by statute or by the provision here, and then, oh, by the way, you get to continue to accrue your time, I think I have a problem with that.
So if Jason lets me go, that because we have mechanisms in the contract that they have to know kind of before certain period of time whether they're being asked back. So if Jason lets me go and then that triggers the review committee, right?
Well, to me, this review committee is triggered like anytime while they're on their probation.
Yes. So if I'm let go May 15th and I'm on probation.
And it could be even that second group that started after school has started. If they're still in that probationary window of trying to establish to be eligible for an annual, we're going to consider moving you.
Okay. So even that late in the school year, if I haven't had any performance issues, but Jason just decides to let me go, like would I be able to be eligible to look at this review committee for me and to possibly be moved to another school even with only 3 weeks left of school?
Well, I have something for you to think about, because I wrote in the margin.
Okay.
We're talking about the committee and there has to be a mechanism to do this. I would argue that I could do it under the involuntary transfer provision of 17.6-1.
Okay.
The superintendent can move for a good and sufficient cause. We could use here, the committee is determined, you've been, a principal has said this is not going to work for you. We'd like to bring you over here,
So that you don't have a break in service.
Because there's another part of this piece is, are you talking about these probationary teachers? They're getting ready to be let go. So it's not like they're on the market and like, oh, let me go apply for a job. And we're going to be out in the wind for a few weeks on pay. It needs to be a fluid transition.
Yes,
From being
yes.
let go to, oh, you're going to land right over here.
And it wouldn't be almost.
That's part of this
Yeah.
collegiality of, oh, we know we have a school and a principal that kind of is ready to receive, it can work, and all.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be happy to get this person.
Yeah.
That's where my head is.
Yes, and I think that way for the probationary teacher, that avoids the break in service if we can smoothly move them over into another vacancy that would work for them.
But I'm struggling with those last few sentences because.
No, so if it really is not going to work out, that is under statute, you have that right to sever ties with them. And so maybe I like what you said about using the involuntary transfer mechanism to make it a smooth transition if the committee were to recommend to the superintendent. Or I guess this would reside with
the committee because there's a lot of moving parts in a discussion like this. And we can do it. I know we can do it.
Yeah.
Under the involuntary language, but there's like 10 bullet points there.
No, I'm talking about, well, there are, yes.
Yeah.
There are 11 actually, but I'm talking about 17.61, which it says unusual and special circumstances.
Yeah, so the
superintendent may recommend to the board that a teacher be transferred from one position to another for good and sufficient reasons.
Yeah. So then the mechanism, kind of what Marianne and Barry had gotten to, would be that a principal would have to notify, and maybe it does go through employee labor relations director or through Tony. They would have to notify HR, however that would work.
Typically, we get a letter.
Okay.
The
before
letter.
it happens.
Yep, they say, oh, hey, I'm releasing, Stephanie.
Okay.
Here's the letter. And my thought process is,
and you get the letter before the employee does.
Then we can invoke the process before all of the EPAFs and all that stuff's going.
Okay, so you get the letter from the principal before the employee.
So does
oftentimes, sometimes, typically,
so
they
now
get
we
it.
have to change them.
Yeah, you're gonna have to change that
The
process.
employee signs it.
Gotcha.
Right,
So
that's
then
right.
that mechanism would have to change.
Yeah.
The principal would have to, and so maybe that does need to be codified here. The principal would have to notify
HR
Human Resource Services Division
that they are
that
considering
they are
releasing
considering
someone.
releasing a probationary
And
contract
most
teacher.
normally-
So if they sent that letter and Tony's group got it and Barry got it, that would automatically
That would
trigger
trigger
them
the-
to say to Sheila Jones, we're going to have you come to this committee meeting for, is that how that
We need
would?
to have a timeline.
Yeah, we've got to have all that
Doesn't have
codified.
enough process in it.
So
Yeah.
I'm also thinking, Tony, we can cut this off by, we do the letter. You don't release the probationary teacher unless you contact HRS for the letter.
Yeah.
Right.
Because then we got control and we.
Because then you have control and not,
And then we could.
And then we can also have the conversation with the principal as to why you're releasing and get some background and things of that nature.
Well, you could let the principal know that there's going to be some, for lack of a better word, there's going to be some scrutiny about this. So, do you have your ducks in a row before you just cut this person loose?
I'm okay
They're
with
going to
the-
fall back on the Florida state statute that says they don't have to give a reason.
Yeah, they are. But if they're going to, I'm going to,
and
we're
that's
not going
fine.
to take that away from them.
Right.
But you got to understand, in my mind, the conversation I'll have is, we're going to take the teacher off their hands.
Right, that's exactly right.
yeah. We're just seeing if it's a district-wide break-in service.
I was just saying, because like you said,
Yeah.
have your ducks
And
in a row.
realistically, we might not be able to save every starfish.
No.
I agree.
No, but I think this adds a layer. But I think that adds some onus to both sides, and that if I have been rated effective and highly effective through the year, and then just there's a personality conflict, that yes, the principal has the right to maybe not have that person in their building, but then that person also for district-wide, because I'm not an employee of Lake Gibson High School, I'm a Polk County Public Schools employee. And so I may not work at Lake Gibson High School anymore, but maybe I fit better at the middle school.
And to me, what you've given this position here in the committee is just a buffer of time to see if we can save
Yes.
this.
Define that time.
Yes, and we
value the human capital.
Yes.
We know they're in the county. Maybe they've moved from out of state.
Yes.
Let's get involved before we lose them.
First time teacher,
And my conversation with the principal would be, to your timeline discussion, Barry, we can codify it, but, I'm not going to let it run on forever, but give me 5 days, give me a week, whatever time for us to get some things together, and then we'll do the transfer. Or see if we're there or not there or whatever,
Okay.
I'd rather not codify time because it's new language.
And then we can see how that works.
It's situational.
Well, it is situational. It is.
Does the statute say the employer will not give reason? I mean, is it a?
No,
It says it does not have.
Must not,
I'm
does
being
not have to.
facetious, but you can come in dressed the wrong way one day and we can let you.
No, I just want what the.
It says without just cause.
It says without just
Without
cause.
just cause.
It says what?
Without just cause.
No, all right, hang on, guys, give me a minute, let me kind of say it correct, let me ask the right question here. I'll look it up myself, but does the statute say that the employer is completely barred from providing a reason?
No.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
no.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
Provide a reason.
Okay, that's what I'm looking
Yes,
for.
yes.
That's what I'm looking for.
They don't have to.
Right.
And that's what the statute.
Right, they don't have to,
They don't
but if
have
you
to.
wanted to, you could.
Yes.
And the
All right,
teacher
gotcha.
has the right to resign. They can resign.
I like that,
So then, so going back to Brian, is it the last two sentences then?
That may
Or
be
I guess that's all one
nice
sentence.
door of this is they end up with a resignation rather than a drop. But that's a part of the backstory of what this whole process, I hope, will carry out.
Well, a resignation, letting a probationary employee go is not a termination.
Right. I'm offering that they have the right to resign.
If they resign.
Oh, if they resign,
If they
okay, gotcha.
resign.
And they go someplace
Remember the
else?
discussion, the 60 days?
Have they ever been let go?
They can come in and resign at any time.
Yeah, that's right, they can.
So then that last sentence, a probationary, so we're gonna scrap that. And so we want to,
Probationary teacher who has.
Are you just gonna get rid of the last?
Just get rid of it?
Yeah.
I don't know how to make it work.
Yeah,
It's
so-
not eligible,
yeah.
unless you just want to restate that if there's a break in service and they're not
Yeah.
eligible.
Well, because in Article 17, we've already addressed if they were probationary and would have been recommended, it's just their position's gone or the program's gone, they're gonna be on the displacement list. We've already taken care of that, and that's if they would have been renewed. It's just their position doesn't exist now anymore.
So the system changes a bit. So before making a recommendation for termination of the employee, so before you get to that stage, HR services are
The
notified.
principal must notify
HR services.
Human Resource Services
Right.
Division.
You guys gather your docket, we get together with the union, we go over them, and figure out, okay.
Okay, so then where would that fall? So, before making, so I think it would go, so before making a recommendation for termination of an employee during the initial probationary period, the principal must contact the Human Resource Services Division.
You said something about.
You want to clarify in there and say they must contact Human Resource Services Division to.
Is that right? Is that what you?
I'm just thinking about a detail.
Looking in the letter, so.
In our contract.
Yeah, I would say before making a recommendation for termination of an employee during an initial probationary period, the principal supervisor
Must contact Human Resource Services.
must contact Human Resource Services Division, period.
We want to say before any action can.
Before,
Any job action can be taken.
before any job action can. Well, it already says that, before making a recommendation.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Okay, the Human Resource Services Division and the Polk Education Association shall review the, well, yeah, I'll just say we'll review the request. I would say review the recommendation.
Brian has something on his mind.
So listen to what I wrote, Brian, and see if this is kind of what we're thinking. So the parties intend to assure that an environment exists that encourages employees' success on an initial probationary contract. Before making a recommendation for termination of an employee during an initial probationary period, the principal supervisor must contact the Human Resource Services Division. The Human Resource Services Division and the Polk Education Association will review the proposed recommendation for termination. The option of offering the employee a transfer to another location will be reviewed, which may provide the employee a greater chance for success. The decision of the Associate Superintendent of Human Resource Services Division shall be final and binding, and the decision shall not be subject to the grievance procedure. Nothing in this subsection shall be deemed to waive an employee or maybe an employer's right under local, state, or federal law.
Employer.
It says employees or employer's right. No?
Employees, yeah.
Employees, okay.
You got plenty of rights.
Okay, under local, state, or federal law.
I like that.
All right, I think we're real close.
Okay. Do you want me to put that up on the screen so that you can see it?
Because I just have 3 issues to resolve.
Here, you turn the Sony needs to read through it.
That's what put me to sleep. I think you sort of left out a step from what you guys said earlier. When they were talking about that they have to bring it to the principal or supervisor has to bring it to HRS.
It's in there.
Right, but then they have time to do their investigating and talk to the principal, and then if it's determination, then you meet with PEA and the district people, no?
No,
That's not what they're saying.
After the committee's done, then they're saying that the associate
The committee would make the recommendation to the associate superintendent of HR, and then that decision that he would make would be final and binding.
And that could be the step where you carry out what's allowed by statute.
Right.
So the associate superintendent of HR could disagree with the committee's recommendation, and whatever he ultimately decides would.
So this is, if I can read statute, because the part that I want to make sure we don't miss, none of us want to miss, is I think we want to make sure that we're carrying out the law, because we can only offer, there has to be break in service to that point.
Yeah.
We can't just like go from one probationary to another probationary contract. It says, and I'm in 1012.335 if you want to make a note of it. And actually it's in the contract. If you want to just look up probationary contract, it's referenced in there for the statutory reference. Letter C, probationary contract means an employment contract for a period of 1 school year awarded to instructional personnel upon initial employment in a school district. Probationary contract employees may be dismissed without cause or may resign without breach of contract. A district school board may not award a probationary contract more than once to the same employee unless the employee was rehired after break in service, for which an authorized leave of absence was not granted. A probationary contract shall be awarded regardless of previous employment in another school district or state. So 2 things happen here. You can do the statutory provision and I can say, no.
We're letting them go.
They can come back and apply, they can go somewhere else. But honestly, those would be people that would probably made a mutual decision that they're really struggling. And I know we don't like to acknowledge it, but there are those people that just struggle.
Sure.
And then there are those people out there that need some PD, they need a PEC, they need a whatever to get them to the next hump. And that's the group that I'm trying to talk about and grab, that if they're not working good for you, Stephanie, Wilfredo might be able to nurture them along. So let's transfer them and get them there and see where we're at.
And so
Now,
this,
I'm going to argue this point because I want to be very clear that if we transfer them to Wilfredo and we're still seeing issues before the school year is over, before I hit that anniversary date, I don't think it's prudent to say, oh, well, just because we tried to get here, that we give them the annual contract. I still think, I want to be clear that we can still have that, Wilfredo can then say, this is just not working out.
Yeah.
I'm within 2 weeks of the anniversary date. I think we need to cut this one loose.
well, and I think this language doesn't erode that.
I agree.
Right? It doesn't at all. It just provides an extra layer of eyes so that if we can keep people that may just work somewhere else. And so then that way, for everybody, right? The district doesn't lose a good teacher, and they just work out somewhere else. And then the teacher that's on probationary contract, if we can avoid a break in service, then they don't have to apply again and get rehired and start all over again.
If we arrive at that end, the statute says we can't do two, they'd have to have a break. So at that point in time, we'd have to pull the trigger. So I'm gonna look to my guys, my team, are we good in concept?
Yes. We're good.
So what I'm gonna do, since this should have been in Article 4, this is in Article 4 for teachers, I'm gonna add this in, print just that page, and then take out the other page. Or actually, that might affect.
Yeah. So just like.
I'm just gonna redo it.
Yeah, just print this.
I'm good. I'm wasting more paper. Okay.
You want to do the whole of 14, the whole of 4?
Yeah. I'm good. I gotcha.
Well, Fran, you want to see the?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to see the statute.
I know.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't say that. Singular reason.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't say that.
Okay. I just took what we had workshopped, so read that over, make sure that's.
Mm-hmm.
I can make it bigger.
It'll trigger the right to do process. It'll trigger this, yeah.
Oh, I had in my notes, because I got sidetracked on the statute.
Go ahead.
What I wanted to see is where we say that, because it looks like we're gonna review, I don't want the principal to think that I'm keeping the teacher.
Oh, okay,
See what
so.
I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I'll go back and human resources will review the proposed recommendation.
I know.
The option of offering the employee a transfer to another location will be reviewed.
The option of.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Option
of offering.
Because really, that's the only two options. They either get a transfer or they get.
I want the principal to know that
Mhm.
you're leaving the school.
Okay.
By either we're gonna
So-
do the probationary term or we're gonna transfer them.
So then maybe we say, maybe we were very clear and say that. So the options of offering the employee a transfer to another location will be, or upholding the termination.
Yes.
Will be reviewed, which may provide the employee a greater chance for success.
Upholding the release.
The release, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that, because then the principal knows that.
So the options, so the options of offering the employee a transfer to another location or upholding the release during the initial probationary.
I think
Or contract or whatever.
that'll help with the supervisor to kind of know that, okay, well, they're gonna get transferred, they're gonna get released. One
So
of the-
this sentence now says, the options of offering the employee a transfer to another location or upholding the release during the initial probationary contract will be reviewed, which may provide the employee a greater chance for success.
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna unitalicize the word transfer. All right, so I'm just gonna print this one again.
A really good piece of contract.
I like it.
I like it too.
Well, it gives us a
Maybe to
better
save some
chance of
folks.
keeping somebody.
Yeah, so, hey, everybody deserves a second chance.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's lots of reasons why things happen.
So Demi, can you give me your teacher Article 4?
Let's get him back there again.
They're just not.
It makes me so sad.
Are you ripping the sign-in sheet?
No, I didn't rip the sign-up sheet. Our teacher.
You don't know what.
Okay, I'll.
Listen.
All right. We did some good work today, guys.
13.
Right.
Yeah. It's a pleasure to be working together again.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, all right, here we go.
Huh? That was it.
That's it.
I really like this piece of language.
Why? So
Well, my team, we're not done.
Y'all are staying till midnight?
No, we're not staying till midnight. But,
well, if Stephanie
all
can
right,
sign.
so what we'll do, just so we can end the live stream, we're gonna end today with the last piece of language with the probationary contract review committee. And so our next date will be Tuesday, March 29th from 3 to 7 at the PEA office. And we will also live stream that session. We will sign these real quick and then my team, our team stay. And then thank you guys so much for such a productive day.
Thank you. Live stream.
All right, we can end the live stream.